YouTube, what is up? It's Brandon Kills 96 here, and I'm coming at you with another video. As you can see, I went 12:013 with Ari yesterday after I made my guide, and today we're going to be doing part number 2 of our counterpicking guide, and I am not swallowing my mic today. Whoa! Can you believe it? Alright, so today's counterpicking episode is going to go over Avatar: The Last Airbender. I probably have the wrong game. We're going to go over Yasuo the Unforgiven. And as you can see, I am a fantastic Yasuo player. Actually, I didn't mean to show you guys that. Let's go to a game that I actually won. Oh, look at that. 18-3-5. That's what I like to see. See? That's what I like to see. Alright. So let's get on to Yasuo. So the first thing that you're going to want to notice is that his base attack damage is pretty high and it scales really well per level. So trading with Yasuo early is not a really good idea. I don't think he's necessarily a great person to trade with level 1, probably through 6. But you can certainly use counterpicks to neutralize his power a little bit. Alright, let's talk about skins. Now, I'm actually a little varied on what my favorite skin is, because Yasuo High Noon, it has this really cool like harmonica thing that you can play, and it's got like a pretty badass looking tornado. And Project Yasuo's got this really cool mecha thing going on. You throw like these mecha tornadoes. It's pretty sweet as hell. But I'm going to tell you guys that my favorite skin is probably his base skin, but only by a small margin. I don't know why, it's just I feel like his base skin just looks the best, but only by a small margin. So the first thing I want you guys to notice about Yasuo is the first sentence on this page scares the living hell out of me. It says, Yasuo's critical strike chances doubled. Now, what exactly does this mean for us trying to counterpick Yasuo? Well, this means that Yasuo only has to build 50% critical strike chance through runes, masteries, and items, and the other 50% comes from his passive. So he only has to build 50% critical strike chance, and he has another 50% from his passive. So that's pretty awesome. The other part of his passive is that underneath his health bar, now there's nowhere I can show you this, but underneath his health bar, there's a small white bar that begins to fill as Yasuo starts moving. Well, once this bar reaches maximum flow, that's what the bar is called, it's called flow. Once it reaches maximum flow, he gains a shield upon the next enemy attack that absorbs a small amount of damage and lasts a pretty short amount of time. I don't know exactly how long, and I don't know exactly how much it absorbs, but it's a pretty small amount of damage, and it's a relatively short period of time. Yasuo's Q is called Steel Tempest. It says it's a skill shot based attack, but it's basically a melee based basically he extends his sword and strikes the enemy. This also critically strikes, applies on-hit effects, and if you start to stack attack speed on Yasuo, the cooldown is actually reduced on his Steel Tempest. Now, as you can tell, none of his abilities actually have a cost, so the only thing you have to worry about playing Yasuo is the actual cooldowns themselves. So as you can see, this ability scales with attack damage. It deals a flat amount of AD per level. And the second part of this ability basically is what you want to watch out for. So if Yasuo hits an enemy with Steel Tempest 2 times within 10 seconds, he will get a tornado that he can throw upon casting the third Steel Tempest. Okay? So a few little combos you can do is like you can use Yasuo to you can strike an enemy with Steel Tempest, like a minion, and then you can dash. I'll get over his combos in a minute, but just remember that every time you strike an enemy with Steel Tempest, you have 10 seconds to strike an enemy again, and once you hit 2 stacks, you gain a tornado that fires people in the air. Pretty much. Yasuo's W is called Wind Wall. Now, Wind Wall is a pretty simple ability. It has a 400 range, and it blocks all incoming enemy projectiles. Anything. It blocks everything. There's nothing that can pierce it. There's nothing that can go through it. If you throw a Draven ult at it from halfway across the map while you're talking to the shopkeeper, it's going to hit the wall and just disappear. So it blocks every single projectile that is thrown by an enemy. Auto attacks, damage, anything. Yasuo's E is called Sweeping Blade. Now what this does is it deals a minor amount of ability power, or it scales with ability power and deals magic damage, but it's not something you want to build into as Yasuo. You don't want to ever build ability power just to boost your Sweeping Blade. I guess you could be a troll and maybe do like an AP Yasuo where your Sweeping Blade deals like a ton of damage. I don't know. But basically what happens is Yasuo dashes through a unit, and that unit cannot be dashed to again for 10 seconds at level 1 all the way to 6 seconds at rank 5. If you cast your Q, Steel Tempest, while you're dashing with Sweeping Blade, then he throws the tornado in like a giant circle rather than like throwing the tornado out. So it's good if you want to be close to your enemy when you're going to use your ultimate on them. Now they scaled this down. What it used to be is that when you dash to an enemy, it increases the damage of the next dash by 25%. Now what it used to be is it would stack all the way up to 100%, but they lowered that to 50%. So basically what you do is you dash to a minion, and then you dash to the enemy, and that deals the maximum amount of damage that you can deal with Sweeping Blade. Yasuo's ultimate is called Last Breath. This ultimate is really, really cool. So what happens is, the first thing you guys need to know about Last Breath, or Yasuo's ultimate in general, is that it can only be cast on airborne targets. So basically, as Yasuo, if you're playing Yasuo, what you want to do is once you hit level 6, you want to get your 2 stacks of Steel Tempest so that you have your tornado. As you can see, he throws the tornado at the Riven. Now once the Riven is knocked up by the tornado, you can go here and you Last Breath her, which strikes her 3 times in the air and slams her down. This deals a flat amount of attack damage. And the other thing about this ability is that is one of the most important things, is that once the opponent lands, he gains 50% bonus armor penetration. Okay? So once he lands, upon using Last Breath, he gains 50% armor penetration. So anybody who's building armor against you, just take all their armor off. They're practically naked. You're going to just destroy them. So what I would do as Yasuo is I would use Last Breath first going into a fight to gain that extra armor penetration for when you go on other targets in the team fight. So try to use Last Breath first. There are a lot of things that like are considered knockups but aren't actually knockups. Like for example, Nautilus's hook is actually considered an airborne ability. It's considered a knockup. Alright, so Yasuo is somebody who I see picked quite often because people think that he's easy, and I see him either picked or banned. I see people like begging me to ban Yasuo because they don't know how to play against him. Yasuo is actually a pretty easy character to play against. There's not a whole lot to his kit that really makes him stand out besides his trading potential early and his doubled critical strike chance. That is really the key here. Because like if you're playing an ADC or something like that, you have to build critical strike chance all the way up to 100% using only items. But if you're playing Yasuo, you only have to build 50%. So, you know, for half the cost, you can get 100%. Anyways, so again, I want you guys to pause the video and I want you to post in the comments what you think the counter pick is to Yasuo based off of what I've told you. Alright, you guys, just a few more things before I get into anything else. So Yasuo gets, as I said before, Yasuo gets a shield when he gets maximum flow. Now this shield can be procced using a caster's auto attack. So what you do is, generally speaking, is you auto attack Yasuo, taking away his shield before you go in with the rest of your damage. Now it's particularly hard for melee champions to actually go in on Yasuo, because if you go up, if you're like running up, you know, from base with home guard boots, and you decide you want to hit Yasuo once and run away, well, he's going to just Steel Tempest you and critically strike you all the way back to the base and like wind wall you off the face of the mountain. So if you're going to like play a melee champion against Yasuo, you really need to be able to strike them from afar to proc his shield. Continuously talking about that, let's talk about what counteracts these spells and why they're so good. As I said before, Way of the Wanderer, we just talked about that. Proc his shield with your auto attack. It's extremely easy to get the shield off of him. All you do is you throw the auto attack at him. Once the flow bar reaches 0, he has no more shield anymore. Steel Tempest, I mean, it can't really be blocked, but you can dodge it. So it's a very short line skill. So if you can time it correctly, then you can actually dodge the line skill. Another thing that you can do is you can use things like shields. If you like Lux's shield, for example, it doesn't necessarily block the damage, but it gives you like a shield that you can put on yourself that allows you to absorb that damage through a shield rather than just eating that damage. Wind wall, there's no real way to get around wind wall. However, I did learn that there are some abilities that you can use to actually like get around wind wall. And the best example that I can find is Swain. So when you cast Swain's W, which is called Nevermore, it can go through the wall because it's not a projectile, right? You just put it on the ground and it comes up and snaps them into place. You're not throwing it at the wall, it's just coming out of the ground. And also tethers are able to go through the wall. So for example, Swain's Q lets out a bird that actually attaches itself and slows enemies. That can go through Yasuo's wind wall because it's not a projectile coming from the enemy champion. The only thing wind wall can't block are tethers and turret shots. So yeah, that's basically it. So neutralizing the wind wall is trying to find abilities that basically can either go through the wind wall or around the wind wall. Yasuo's E, Sweeping Blade. The only thing that you can do to get rid of Sweeping Blade is Sweeping Blade has a relatively short range when it comes to dashing between enemies. So if you kind of stay like away from your minions, Doesn't matter what character you're playing, but if you kind of stay away from your minions, kind of like they smell bad or something, like just stay away, and like he won't be able to dash to you as easily and deal that extra damage. Last Breath is, I would say, Last Breath in combination with Steel Tempest are the two abilities that you need to watch out for the most. You really, as the opponent, you need to dodge Steel Tempest's Tornado. When you see that tornado on Yasuo, I would play to dodge that tornado. I would like focus on dodging that tornado, especially when he hits level 6. Because if you get hit by that tornado, you're going to get hit by Last Breath, and if the jungler's coming in for a gank, then he's got 50% extra bonus magic pen or armor pen, and you get knocked up for like an additional second through Last Breath. So like, just pay attention. Just don't get hit by the tornado. So again, I want you guys to tell me what you think the counterpick is, and I will give you a second to look it over. Alright, my counterpick to Yasuo is Orianna the Clockwork Lady. Now, why do I think Orianna is better than every other champion? Well, let's think about it. Orianna's passive is actually really cool. So, Orianna's passive is that when she throws an auto attack at an enemy, she gains bonus magic damage the more times she strikes that enemy with an auto attack. So if you hit the enemy once, it deals a flat amount of attack damage plus additional magic damage. If you strike that same target again with another auto attack, it deals that base auto attack damage again, but doubles. I don't know if it's doubles, but it increases the amount of magic damage on hit. So the more times you hit the same target with her auto attack, the more damage it's going to deal. So this is very effective for proccing Yasuo's shield, because you proc his shield with one auto attack, and then you just continuously hit him with auto attacks, and he just keeps taking more and more damage. Yasuo's Steel Tempest can be neutralized by Orianna because she can use an ability that she has. It's her E called, what is it, Command, I keep forgetting, Command Protect. So basically what she does is she uses her ball to put a shield on herself and absorb incoming damage. It can be either physical or magic. So if you have that shield on yourself from Command Protect, then even if Steel Tempest crits, it's generally not going to take off that much health because you have that extra shield. Another thing I learned about Orianna is that her ball doesn't actually go through Wind Wall, but it stops at Wind Wall. And the weird thing about Orianna's ball is that the ball itself doesn't go through the Wind Wall, but the abilities that you use with the ball do go through the Wind Wall. So what happens is if you throw your ball at Yasuo's Wind Wall and you cast Command Shockwave, then he still will be sucked into the shockwave, but the ball just won't go through the wall, if that makes any sense. So the best thing I can tell you to do is, let's pretend that this Ashe is Orianna. The best thing you can do is like run over here and like throw the ball this way. Instead of trying to like throw it through the wall, just like run over and like throw it that way. Because generally he's going to start backing up when he sees you start coming towards him. Or you can always run through the wall and just throw it at him. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Sweeping Blade, again, the damage on Sweeping Blade can be completely negated by Command Protect. And also another thing you can do is her W is called Command Dissonance. And it actually, when she throws her ball down, the ball opens and it slows enemy targets. So if he's trying to dash at you, you can throw your ball at him and slow him. So you can slow him. You can throw your ball at his Wind Wall, which actually pierces the Wind Wall. You can put a shield on yourself that blocks Steel Tempest. And as far as Last Breath goes, as soon as he gets out of Last Breath, if you cast Shockwave, you're going to be dealing way more damage than he is, and not even allowing him to use that bonus armor penetration. Plus, if you cast Shockwave while the jungler is trying to gank you, then he will be sucked into the Shockwave as well. So you'll be dealing additional damage to both of them. Thank you guys so much. I had some great feedback on the last video I did, and I want to keep that feedback up. Please let me know what you guys want to see next, and we are going to continue to make these videos every single day. He rivals Riven. Look at that. But anyways, you guys have a beautiful day, and I will see you guys next time on this episode of Counterpunch.